Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Harmless Dave back again, talking real music in real time for real people, just like you and just like me. Just got a notification that I need to start my meeting with the band Creye. And yes, we have Andreas Gullstrand here from the band Creye. In case you're not familiar with Creye, I have been talking about this band for quite some time. This is their first album, which I think I got the day it came out. And then this album I got more recently. This is Creye #2. And then they do have some other, they have an EP of live music out there. They also have, I think, an album that came out prior to their debut album with Frontiers, which was another EP that was floating around out there. That's, I think, the first time I actually discovered, excuse me, the band Creye. Andreas is here. How are you today, Andreas?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good, really good. A little under the weather. I'm still getting over something, but starting to feel a bit better. How's things in Sweden? Is everything kind of back to normal in Sweden?
Well, I would say so. More or less. Yeah.
You guys are out there on the road again, right? Playing concerts?
Well, it was just one show. We're actually in the studio right now. We're starting to record our next album, so we took a break from that and got to do the Gothenburg gig this last Saturday. So we're not on the road yet, but it's coming.
Yeah. How did the concert go?
Well, it was very fun to be on stage again, and very fun to meet all the fans that we've been missing since 2019. So it's been a while, but it's nice to be back on stage again. So yeah.
And you say you're back in the studio recording. When do you think you're going to be having another album come out? This year, next year?
Well, it's hard to say, but we're starting the studio process now. So, I mean, later this year, probably, maybe earliest next year. It's hard to say.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that the record label is pretty happy with the first two records and how those albums came out, and the reception was very good. Even here in the United States, people were talking a little bit about you guys, but I know in your home country and in different places in Europe in general, Creye was a big deal. You guys were you're kind of tapped into something pretty special. You have a very unique sound. How would you characterize like your philosophy? Like when you guys create music, who are your influences, and are you trying to just not be like anybody else? Or tell us a little bit about how the sound came about.
Well, it's always changes. It's always changing. It's not the same now that it was from the beginning. I remember some old post I did like before I even recorded the first Creye song, where I was talking about doing like a mix with rock, retro, 80s country, all that kind of thing. And I think Never Too Late is probably the song that represents that the most. And then the album came about, and that was more like rock, 80s. And then we did a second album, and I think we were striving more towards some modern sounds, pop, striving more towards the pop genre. Mm-hmm. We were always kind of, conscious about that. The second album is probably going to be like a transition album. Mm-hmm. We need to get away from. We feel like the first album is more or less something that. It is right in all in all aspects, but we want to do something that's nobody else is doing, and therefore we tried to do something else with Creye 2, and I think that paved the way for what we were going to do now. which is, I think that what we're doing with the next album is gonna be something that at least I haven't heard in music in that way before. I mean, we're not gonna do something totally crazy, but you know, I haven't heard what we're trying to do before in that sense. But you know, in terms of influences, I mean, me personally, I'm always, you know, more of the pop guy. I strive towards Michael Bolton, Survivor.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would say that is rock as well, and I would too. But I like those kinds of melodies and harmonies that you find in that kind of music. And I'm listening to a lot of country music. I'm listening to a lot of metal music. I'm listening to a lot of rock. So I'm kind of all over the place, and I want to do it all at once. And I think that is how you create Creye. You want to, more is more, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's a lot of different influences, and you can hear it. I think you guys did go in a different direction on the second record, but there was a lot of, you know, residual, I guess you would say, sounds maybe from the first album, but the second album was a progression into some new territory. You mentioned a lot of modern rock. The production value on these records, both of them. I mean, when this comes out of your car stereo, right? It's just very rich and full and big. Who's doing the production work on these records? Because they're just phenomenal in the sense that they really are rich and they're full, and it's certainly designed, if you have a decent car stereo or home stereo unit, these albums really give them a good workout, you know. And I'm always impressed by bands that really make great studio recordings. If you go back in time, you know, you've got these bands like Toto and Steely Dan throughout the ages that were really meticulous in the studio. Is that the way you guys tend to work in the studio?
Well, no, studio work in this era is something completely different than I would imagine that Toto were doing back in the days.
Yeah.
You know, the budget only gets us that far, and we're like prioritizing what we're gonna do in the real studio and what we're gonna do in our own home studio. You know, so on Creye 2 we did drums and bass in a real studio, and then we did vocals in another studio, and then all the guitars from home, all the keys from home, all the harmonies were recorded by ourselves. But you know, when we enter the studio, the songs are more or less complete. You know, we've done all the pre-production, we've calculated where everything is going to be, and we just record it for real. So it's more or less done when we're entering the studio, you know. And then it all comes down to who's mixing, and you know, we don't send something off until we're completely done with it. So I think it's when we feel we're done with an album, then it should be enough, at least for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys obviously, I would say, put a lot of effort into the recording itself. I mean, it really does show up. I mean, one thing that I can honestly say about both of these albums is you can listen to every song on this album, you know, on each album, because they're even though there are singles that get released by the record company, and those are good songs, but then the other songs, I mean, there's really no song where you go, okay, I have to get through this song to get to the next good song. It seems as though you guys don't put anything on these albums that isn't really listenable and interesting and melodic. I mean, what I'm really impressed by, I think, with this band more than a lot of other bands that are coming out is that these are good songs, even stripped down. Like you guys did some acoustic versions of songs from the first album, I believe. And
Yeah.
the songwriting is really of a very high caliber, because even on an acoustic guitar and just a vocal, you can hear the quality of songwriting. And those songs are just, I think they're even better in a way done in that fashion, because you can kind of hear every nuance, and you don't have the bigger production. But who's doing the majority of the band's songwriting? Is it yourself, or is it you collaborating?
Well, it's some collaboration, but I'm doing a lot as well. Frederick is doing quite a lot of the songwriting. He's probably doing more of the backgrounds for some of the songs, and I'm doing more of the melodies and the lyrics. And you know, for some songs, I'm doing the whole song, and for some songs, we're putting the pieces together as a band. And I think, especially with Creye 1, I did a lot of songwriting, and we obviously used a lot of external writers as well. On Creye 2, which was more of an internal process, but we did use some external writers as well. For the next album, it's going to be all us. It's a group effort. But if a song can't hold together, if you strip away all the production, then it's probably not a good song. I think with Creye 1, I wasn't that an experienced songwriter. I'm not that still, but I'm at least a bit better. But Creye 1, I was building songs around the production more. I think I did that less with Creye 2, and even less with the next album. So I think the less you need to rely on bangs and booms and that kind and big harmonies, the better the song is probably gonna be. So yeah, that has always been a goal, to not rely on so much of the around stuff. That is obviously there to make the experience cooler, or make it a show of it, but not to make it a good song necessarily.
Right. And if somebody that just discovered this band and said, Andreas, what is your best song? Like, what do you think the band's best song so far is out of the work you've put out?
Well, it's still to this day, I would say Miracle is one of the best songs, because
Miracle, right?
Yeah, it's always so fun to play live. It's just a great song, and it's not a song that I've been a part of, in any way. So, but I really like that song. But there's a lot of songs that I think, I Would Never Too Late is obviously a milestone, both for me and for the band, being the first song. I think that one has something special about it. But I would say the best is yet to come.
Good answer. And so you do a lot of the songwriting, and it's going to again continue on this new album. Do you have a working title for the new album yet, or are you or you can't say because you'll have to disclose the information prior, and the record label probably doesn't want you to.
Both yes and yes.
Okay.
So I can't say for now, but well, you'll see in time.
That's fine. The record label, I'm assuming they're pretty happy with you guys. You have a good relationship with the people at Frontiers Music.
Sure, absolutely.
That's awesome. And so maybe the end of this year, or maybe the beginning of next year, are you guys planning on doing any more concerts? You said you had just done one, and you and maybe are there more that you're going to do out there?
Well, we have the indoor summer festival coming up in September, and that is the only one that's booked for now. I mean, we're not focusing on booking right now because of the studio. And I think when we're done with that, we're gonna try to get back out there. You know, we're restarting the process after the pandemic, and you know, it's gonna be a while before we get rolling like we did back in the days, you know. But we're getting there.
Good.
Right now we're just focusing on the album because, you know, we're all working regular jobs as well, and studying and stuff like that. So it's, you know, both booking and doing stuff in the studio. It's, you know, it's weekends and nights. So, you know, there's not much time left to do all the other stuff as well for now.
Yeah, understood. Now, are there any other bands, obviously, in your area? Sweden is it's a good area for melodic rock, but do you hang around with any of the other bands that are kind of the same, or at least have similar sounds, in the sense like they you know, there are a lot of bands that I listen to from Sweden. A lot of Americans don't, but I've discovered that you guys are really good at melodies and harmonies and songwriting. Any other bands that are influencing you that are currently on the scene?
Sure, definitely. Heat, obviously, big influence. Eclipse as well, and Art Nation, and just got back together. I read about it the other day, so they're a big influence as well. And Alexander being one of being the first singer. So we met up with them actually in Gothenburg this weekend. So it was nice seeing them again. So I mean, that's probably it from Sweden. We're based, you know, very south in Sweden, and most of the other bands are based, you know, in the middle of Sweden. So we're quite far apart in terms of where we're located. So
geographically,
yeah.
All right, well, sir, I just wanted to let our audience, you know, get to meet you. And again, this is your latest album, but you did do a live album as well that you can, I think that's more or less like a streaming album, or you can, you know, download it, but there's no physical CD that you can purchase. But I was impressed with that too. So you guys have quite a bit of music, because then you have the acoustic material you did leading up to the second album, which is a nice way, because I remember getting that and saying, okay, this will keep me occupied until the second album comes out. And that was a really good way to kind of rework some of those songs that you guys had put out. And any last words for folks here in the United States? Would you ever think of coming here to tour if you know, the chance came about?
Well, that would obviously be a dream come true, getting to tour in America, and I really hope that we get to do that someday. And I would love to see more of the American audience, and, you know, expanding. So I hope to reach more Americans in the future, and more fans in general, obviously. But it's great to be rid of this pandemic, you know, in some sense, and be able to get back out there again. We've been waiting too long for this.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are fairly young, right? I mean, what's the oldest person in the band?
Well, well, it's probably Frederick. Yeah.
But everybody's, I mean, you guys could do this for a very long time. So I'm hoping that more Americans, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, to maybe get some people to take a look at your music if they hadn't already heard it. I've talked about you before, I think since 2017. I've had a thing for Creye, and so Best of luck to you in this new year, and hopefully everybody is out there staying safe, and things will continue to open up for you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the support. You've been supporting us from the very beginning, so much appreciated.
All right, Andreas, thank you so much, and my best to everybody in the band. And hopefully we'll have you on again someday once that new album comes out.
It would be our pleasure.
All right, sir. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Bye.